This is the planning board meeting of the town of Austining for May 6th, 2020, our first Zoom meeting. Actually, our names are all on the screens, but just in case there are folks who are listening by audio, let's go around and just introduce ourselves. Gareth?
Hello, Gareth Huffam, member of the planning board.
I'm just going around the screen, so Jim?
Jim Bocinas, board member.
Kathy?
Kathy Zelantis, town planning board attorney.
Donna?
Donna Sharrett, planning board member.
Carolyn?
Carolyn Stevens, planning board member.
Valerie?
Valerie Menastra, town planner.
Dan?
Nancy Arcia, planning engineering consultant.
Okay. And Sandy? We'll have your audio.
Secretary.
Sandy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is the Kikuchi subdivision for 51 Croton Dam Road, a request for an amendment to the subdivision resolution of approval. Applicant?
Ralph Marshall is here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, if you can hear me, on March 9th, we submitted a letter of request. Prior to that, I did appear, if you remember, and we appeared on the basis of attempting to get a subdivision of one lot into two. And there were objections by your board as to the condition on the resolution of approval that prevented the further subdivision. And then we dug into that, and on my March 9th letter, I brought this into focus by having some investigation with Mr. George Weeks, and the reasoning behind that note that there'd be no further subdivision. And subsequently, we have requested your board to update that resolution, to modify that resolution, which would actually bring it in line to the subdivision plat that was filed, which inadvertently didn't have that note. We believe that, and I know Mr. Kikuchi is listening in, that once the basis of that note was removed, that there really isn't any further, there really wasn't any reason why we couldn't subdivide that lot. That was the only reason, and that restriction has been removed. The fact that the sewer was inadequate capacity. And I saw Mr. Ciarcia's letter, and he confirms that the sewer pump station has now been replaced. There is no capacity issue. That being the only reason for the condition, we request respectfully that your board give us a hearing on this matter. In my letter, if you haven't read my letter, it would be hard to understand, but we give about 6 reasons why you should do this. The approval would not require a refile division plan. This restriction never appeared on the file. The modified resolution of your board would clear the conflict as amendment would be non-jurisdictional of the general municipal law based on this from the county planning board, which said there was no jurisdiction, not require a public hearing. Since it's not a subdivision application, there was a negative declaration on the subdivision, and certainly the letter from, I guess, is somewhat important in this whole matter. So based on that, I mean, it's a fairly simple request, and our fate is in your hands. So we hope that you will see clear to grant us this modification to the resolution so that we may go about making a further application for subdivision. And that's,
I have a question. Who owns the existing lot in the back?
it's for, it's, it, it was sold.
The problem I'm seeing, there's lack of frontage required for the middle lot if we were to do
Let me say
this.
two things about that. The first thing is that we're not asking for that. Obviously, we're not asking for subdivide. The second thing is we believe, I heard this secondhand, that the building inspector in the town has already opined on that issue and that the frontage that we would show is sufficient. You check me, but we're actually technically not asking for that subdivision today.
My continuing concern is that this would require us to basically overturn a previous planning board's decision. And in due respect to George Weeks's letter, he doesn't state anything about the other board members' reasoning for their decision. So although we may have a decision from Mr. Weeks concerning his own opinion of what happened in the past, describing what the previous board's decision was.
Well, Mr. Weeks said that was the only reason. And he was the chairman. And secondly, if you look at all of the minutes of every meeting, there was never a discussion of this issue. This was something that Mr. Weeks added to the resolution. He thought he was doing a good thing, and he added that to the resolution. There was no discussion about this issue. So as far as whether the other planning board members had any input into this, I would say no. I didn't see it in the minutes.
On the other hand, we still also did not see any limitations on this prohibition that could have been submitted by the applicant at the time.
I believe that at the time, Mr. Pacucci wanted to get going.
And that's the whole point. The planning board went along with, the previous planning board went along with this based on this being a part of the conditions.
Well,
Now,
we're back
I
to
can understand that if the if the rest of the planning board currently decides that we wish to go and consider this, this is fine. But at least there would be a necessity for a public meeting, I would think, public hearing, I would think, because all the neighbors are operating under the presumption of the previous board, planning board's decision. Jim, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah. Well, I'm in agreement with your position as you just stated, but in addition to that, I had a conversation with the building inspector this week, and we would be creating a nonconformity by subdividing this property. There would be no frontage for that middle property if we were to subdivide it.
Jim, I talked to John Hamilton about this when it originally came to us.
I know that.
And they apparently deliberately laid out this strip going to the rear lot as 50 feet wide. And in the zoning code, the 50-foot provision is up to interpretation, and that's why I reached out to John at that time to have him read it and see if he believed that it was saying what I thought it was saying. And he concurred that you did need frontage as long as the access easement was 50 feet.
I spoke with John after you had that conversation and went over it with him. And if we're going to even consider this, he would have to review it again, because we'd be using someone else's property as the frontage for both of these lots. That doesn't seem right to me at all.
But it's really not frontage.
Then he doesn't have frontage. Then it's non-conforming.
I think the first and foremost issue is whether this board wants to even consider this application. And then if if the board decides to move forward with that, then we can take a look at dealing with all the site particularities and the issues that might come up with another subdivision of the property.
Knowing that there are additional issues on top of what Ching just presented, I'm leaning the other way.
So why don't we do a quick poll of the board members at this time? I'm just going to go around the screen, and forgive me, but it's the screen that I'm looking at. So Carolyn, you have any thoughts at this time?
Not really.
Okay. Anna?
I'm not in agreement. I think that, I just think basing a decision on someone's memory of a private meeting 13 years ago, if that's what was going on here, I just would not feel comfortable opening a previous planning board, because I hope in the future things that we've deliberated on aren't casually overridden. So I don't think, I won't go with it.
Gareth?
I've struggled with this one, but I think I'm coming down on the side of wanting to respect the previous board's decision over these other considerations.
Okay. Does the staff have any other comments they want to add at this time?
Well, I would just add that in terms of the legal process going forward, if you were to consider it, and I don't even know if it's going to move past this, you do have to do SECRA again, because the SECRA was based on the condition that there wouldn't be another lot, and obviously this is creating another lot. I don't agree that you don't have to file a new subdivision plat. That was an erroneously filed subdivision plat that didn't contain the restriction. So that's, obviously Jim brings up the issue of potential variances. So that's something that would have to be looked at again. And I don't believe you wouldn't have to refer out. I think you would have to start this like a new subdivision and have a public hearing on it.
Valerie, anything else?
No, I think it's been covered at this point.
Hey, Dan, anything more?
Yeah, that's it from my end.
Okay. So it would seem like we can go through a formal poll, but it seems like we don't have any votes here that would support considering this matter at this time. Correct? Jim?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
The applicant. If you are going to take a vote, I believe you'd have to, I believe you'd have to take a vote and you'd have to deny the application.
Well, I was about to take a vote, but Kathy, what would you say? What?
You're requesting an amendment to the prior subdivision, and the prior subdivision precludes the lot that you're seeking to create, right?
No, we are only asking the board to modify the resolution passed years ago. We're not asking for anything more than that.
But the resolution has the condition
Wait.
of that you cannot create another lot, correct?
We're asking the board to modify the resolution as to that condition. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear.
Is there an actual difference at this point to go and say that the only thing before the board currently is requesting us to consider the modification of a previous resolution, which would seem to be very simple for us to say no?
Well, I think you have to put it to a vote, and I think you have to, we have a request, and I think you have to vote on it.
Right, which was, I was just about to do that, but okay. Is there anything particular you want us to go through?
Well,
I mean, but he's the applicant is framing the issue, and you can't just modify a prior resolution. He's asking for an amended, you're asking to amend the prior subdivision approval.
Honestly, we do this all the time. It's nothing new. I think your board members may be confused and maybe have never done it before, but it happens often that an applicant comes back and there are changes to a resolution. There might be conditions. There might be bond amounts, different things. The planning board has the power to modify the resolution.
Right, you're asking them to amend their prior approval.
I'm
And their
not the
prior
ownership.
approval had a condition that there should be no further subdivision, correct?
I'm only asking to modify that one condition of the resolution, and that is correct.
Right, so you're asking for an amended subdivision approval. I mean, you can call it modifying a condition, but you're amending the prior planning board subdivision approval that contained that condition in it. So there's the potential then, when you do SECRA, right, for more lots to be developed than what the prior planning board determined.
Well, we don't object to doing seeker, and we don't object to having a public hearing.
But I guess the planning board is taking the position that at this point, there's no basis for it to consider the amendment of the prior planning board's approval. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm asking for the planning board to vote and give me a resolution to that effect.
Well, I think the way that I framed it is different from how you were saying it, but.
It sounds like we need a formal resolution drafted by our staff in order for us to vote on it properly. So I guess we will have to wait for the staff to finish a draft for this and come back for another meeting for us to go and make a vote on that. Does that sound correct?
Yes, you're directing the staff to prepare a resolution that takes into account this discussion held at this meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I have a vote on that instruction to the staff? Jim? A vote yes would be asking the staff to draft a resolution to reflect the board's decision.
A yes to drafting it, yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Anna? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yes. Did you hear me?
Yes. Gareth?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. Okay. Anything else from the applicant today?
No, would that resolution be ready for the next meeting? Would be a month from now? Is that when it would be? Or
2 weeks.
May 20th.
May 20th.
May 20th?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll be back on May 20th, and your board will formally vote on adopting a resolution to deny this application.
It's the board will consider it at that meeting when they're presented with the draft resolution.
Okay.
Do we have enough time to do this for the May 20th meeting rather than the June 3rd meeting? Sandy was commenting that there may be an issue with timing.
That's
Sandy,
dealing with the, that was actually dealing with the public hearings and the notification of those public hearings because of the newspapers. But applications that don't have public hearings will be fine. For example, like a resolution that we're dealing with. There's no timing issue.
Good, okay.
Well, that brings up a question. Can you deny it without a hearing? Public hearing.
You're getting a hearing.
A public hearing.
You're getting a public hearing.
When?
Our next meeting is a public hearing.
Okay. And
No,
then,
no. The next hearing will not be a public hearing on
Oh,
this
June 3rd
matter.
is the next public hearing?
Then if there is going to be a public hearing, it will be at the planning board meeting on June 3rd. I think the intent right now is to write a resolution based upon this board's discussion, correct, Kathy? And it doesn't
Correct.
require a public hearing.
Correct. If we're saying that we're not going to consider the request because it's in violation of the prior approval.
Okay.
well, if I might add, if there is a resolution at the next meeting, might whoever prepares this resolution kindly list the reasons why the board is denying the application if they decide to deny it.
I think Kathy normally does that anyway, but okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Master Mike.
Master Monaco.
Okay, so when will I see you next? I'm just unclear. May 20th? May?
The
Yes.
next planning board meeting is May 20th. That's
Okay. But I'm still confused. Is there going to be a public hearing at all on this application? Right, on the request to modify the resolution, is there going to be a public hearing?
Are you requesting a public hearing?
Well, I think it would probably be in your interest to have a public hearing, but if you don't want to have one, it's up to you.
We would need a public hearing to keep the same resolution the planning board already went through a public hearing for?
Well, I think it was your attorney that said we needed a public hearing.
I said if they were to consider amending the application, you couldn't just magically erase a condition, because you were suggesting a certain process, and you couldn't just magically erase a condition of a prior resolution without going through the process again. It would essentially be an amended subdivision application. So you'd have to go through the secret, you'd have to go through all that. But if the board is not considering, even at this point, going through the process to amend the prior subdivision application, I think it'll cost you a lot more money to go down that process to be at the same place where the board is telling you from the outset they're not going to consider it, because there is already a prior resolution of the planning board that they're not considering amending.
Okay, I didn't want there to be a flaw in this process. If we have to challenge this process, I wouldn't want to have to come back and have a public hearing before you deny it. So if you believe that this is proper method, that's not for me to say.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, applicants, for that. We'll go on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, thank you and good night.
Good night. Stay safe. The next item on the agenda, Sandy, can you hear us? Is Mariko for 125 Morningside Drive, new single-family residence, architectural review.
That's correct.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes. Yes, I am here.
Yes. Mr. Rango?
Okay, let me share my screen now. Oh, hold on. Okay, this is a new home in the 125 Morning Street, Morning Drive. If you see, we have the location, the vicinity map over here where it's located, and we have in the location map what is the property, with the numbers you see around is the photo of the neighbors located into the property, around the property. It's a two-story house with a basement, a front porch. We can see in the elevations here is the front porch and the 2 stories, plus the basement here is the garage and the mechanical room.
Mr. Rango, are you moving a cursor on your screen? I don't see a cursor. Or you just describing it? You just describing it by words? I just want to ensure that I'm not missing something on the screen.
You see my share screen? I put in all the PDF from the drawings. You see it or not?
Right, but I was just asking whether you were moving your cursor over it when you were describing portions of the diagram. That's all.
Oh, okay, yes.
If you're not moving it around, then I'm not looking at anything other than the diagram.
Okay, okay. I want to start from the beginning here. Okay, if you see here the property, this is the house located into the site. According with all the requirements, they have all the setback lines. You see that lines over there in the dotted lines. The house is pretty much conforming with the things. The only thing is not conforming is the lot width, because it's 150 and the width is 114. They request, like a variance that would be for the zoning for we have here in the zoning charge. The house is a front porch colonial. The house is a 2,275 square footage, 3 bedrooms house. two-car garage, 2 stories with basement, 4 inches exposed vinyl siding, brown rice panel shutters, roof and architectural asphalt shingles, color each row, and the garage door will be white colonial horizontal square spotted with tall glass. Let me show the elevation. You can see all the things we describe into the narrative we send it to the board. This is the front elevation. We see the front porch.
I'm not seeing anything different on here. I just see the first site plan.
Oh, I don't know. I have my elevation in front of me. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know.
Did you do share screen? Did you click
Yes.
the right screen?
Yes, I share the screen. They say here, sharing the screen. You want me to stop it and share it again?
Try that. That might help.
Okay, hold on. Let me share it again. You see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
That is the elevation. Okay. Okay, now you see here, this is the front elevation with the front porch, describe the shutter windows. The vinyl siding is 4 inches exposed. Okay. The roof shingles will be hickory. And we have the door for the garage is a white colonial horizontal squares patterned with top glass. If you see here, they have these squares in the top. I can go back to the 4 plans and describe a little bit the inside of the. You see the 4 plans now or not?
Yes.
Okay. This is the basement. This is the garage we have here in the side, and the mechanical room and all this unfinished storage. This is the first floor when we have the living room. They have the dining room here. This is like a little breakfast or den, and the kitchen. This is a modular house. I mean, you see, it's 2 models here, one here in the back and one here in the front. And on the second floor, we have the bedrooms. We have the main bed, master bedroom here, 1 bedroom here, and 1 bedroom there. And the roof plan showing, is a gable roof with a little gable in the front. From the and beyond is the cover front porch. In the second slide, and in these slides, we have some samples of the colors of the siding, color of the shingle roof, the window shutter, and the door and garage door, and the exterior lights samples, how it looks like.
Do you have any photographs of what the site would look like from the road?
Let me see. I think because it's an empty lot, I don't see anyone. But this is the house you see here. Is the house across the street? Is this one here, number 2? And this is the empty lot here. That is the property. Belong to the same owner.
So Gareth, there's on Morningside Drive, that's where 3, 4, and 5 are, the houses. That's Morningside Drive, and they're on the other side of Morningside Drive. I've gone past this property a lot. You're not going to have like a really clear view of the house from Morningside. Yeah. I mean, you can when you're walking and you're looking up the driveway, you can see that one house. Number 2, it's rather large. It's hard to miss, but you can see part of that. But really, if you're walking and looking up the driveway.
Okay.
It is like a hidden, like a driveway. You need to go like inside the road, and this is like in the top of the hill. These two properties are pretty much in the same level, but you don't see from the street. You don't see it. It's pretty much really away.
Yeah, what you
Okay.
see from the street is the stream, the Pecanico tributary comes through the property. And that's the one that goes down to Armstrong Plumbing and then goes, crosses North State into SBCA, the wetland there. This is where that water comes from.
Okay, thank you. It's helpful.
We're strictly here as an ARB today, correct?
Yes.
That's correct, except David, you mentioned that you're now requesting a variance associated with this.
I think so, because it looks like into the zoning charge is for the lot width is not conforming with the requirements, because if you hold on, let me.
Yeah,
That's correct.
40 feet less, I think.
Right. I think I'll have to take a look to see if I thought this was part of a subdivision at some point, which means that it would be pre-existing non-conforming. But let me check with the building inspector on this to see if you will ultimately need a variance.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if the applicant needs a variance, that should come first in the process.
Yes.
Before.
There's another point we should have to look at, and that is there was a condition on the subdivision plat about relocating the house from somewhere other than what was on the approved plans. This thing was approved in 07.
Right.
And the house is generally where it's supposed to be, but the driveway configuration is different than originally proposed. So that's sort of another question, I guess, whether there's a threshold issue as to whether this triggers a site plan review by the board, the capacity as the planning board.
Dan, I read your letter. You said also that it's oriented differently, the house, than it was before.
It's oriented a little differently, and it actually looks like there's a bit of a discrepancy between the architectural plan and the septic plan. But I think more importantly, the driveway kind of wrapped around the house in the original approval. The improvement plans prepared for the subdivision showed a different arrangement.
You're talking about this plan that surveyed has here with the septic field?
No, there were planned, this subdivision was approved in 07. And
Okay.
And there were improvement plans for the subdivision, the driveway, the stormwater improvements, and things of that nature. And the subdivision plat that was recorded had a note on it that basically triggered site plan review if the house location changed.
Okay, I understand.
So it's essentially in the same location, but a different, the garage is on the opposite side of the house. It was turned slightly differently. So as I said, the threshold issue is whether this rises to requiring a site plan approval now because of that change.
The change of the orientation of the house. Okay. I
And the
understand.
driveway.
And the driveway. Okay.
Just a question about the driveway location. Was this always approved so that the house in the back has to go through two different properties to get access to the front,
Yes.
to the street?
That was the basis of the subdivision.
Okay.
If you want to see it, I guess if Sandy hands the screen over to me, I could probably show you what I'm talking about.
No, I don't want to rehash items that were already approved, but it's just out of the ordinary.
Can we get a copy of the previous approval for the site?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Dan?
Yes.
So on the site plan, it looks like they take the roof and footing drains and run it in a pipe and empty it right into the stream. And that looks like the other house is doing that too. Am I reading that wrong, or is that's
Well,
something that was approved?
there were drainage improvements that were installed as part of this, as well as a stormwater management pond. So I need to look at the old drawings as well. But that was what was contemplated in the original.
So those, I would imagine that since 2007, that's been changed where you can't empty water right into a stream from a roof, right?
Well, but there's a stormwater pond, so I mean, I think
Oh,
the
okay.
question on this, it's a recent subdivision. This isn't a lot that's been out there forever. So I had Sandy pull some of the records, but I guess what I'll have to do is look at a full set of plans. I just had a shot of one of the sheets. So I think it's appropriate for us to almost like the previous application, understand what that planning board was looking at and what their intentions were.
Could somebody point out the stream to me on the drawing?
It's not on this. This is actually an incomplete.
Well, actually, you can see it a little better on the septic plan.
Yeah, not this page. This
I'm
page
looking-
doesn't go all the way to Morningside.
And this one, maybe?
Yeah, I'm looking at another
I
one.
think you got to go. It looks like you got to go out and then take over the screen again. You're still looking at.
Yeah,
at
that's
your
not
plan.
this one.
It was the first drawing you had shown us.
It's way on the bottom of the property. It's not like by the house.
Uh-huh.
It's closer. It sort of wraps around. It's a beautiful property. It really is gorgeous.
All right, but I believe you'll see on the other plan that water course has previously been piped.
Down by the road, it's not piped.
No, not down by the road, but
Oh.
where you were concerned, it's piped.
Where it's dumping in, right?
And also, to your point, I mean, yes, we usually put some type of stormwater management between roof runoff and so forth.
Right.
But I would have to check the record because the subdivision indicates a stormwater pond on the site. So since the subdivision was premised on, I guess, building 2 new lots, I would imagine that the stormwater improvements at that time contemplated the runoff from 2 new houses in the driveway.
Yeah, I actually think it's one of the ones that Sandy didn't send to us in the mail. I think it's that it's one of the more recent submissions. It shows where the water course is. Like that came with like the landscaping and all.
Well, no, it was the last thing we got.
Yeah, I think so.
We just got it today. It was the septic plan.
Oh, okay.
So that showed the grading.
Yeah, so it's
And
not on these.
it does show a somewhat different arrangement in terms of retaining walls. So I know that's always been an issue with the board as well, retaining walls and materials that built at it.
But in this plan, we have from the, hold on, from Vivo Associates, they show here, what is the retaining walls going. If you see.
Right, and then in the submittals we received from you, I think you showed a stone wall at a maximum of 4 feet of height, but no top and bottom of wall is shown on the Bivol plans, but it appears those walls are higher than that in some locations.
Let me see, because he put in like a standard detail in his, hold on, according with the profile he provide here. This is the trench. No.
Yeah, we're not seeing what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Zarago, I think you'll have to reload your screen again.
Okay, hold on. Let me check again. Yeah. He provides some details for the, I presume it's for the trench, junction box and things like that. And he has here, like a few kind of for,
Yeah, those are all septic details.
yeah. And he has here some location of the retaining walls.
Correct.
And you can
That
also
will
see the
be-
stream on that. This is the one that shows the stream.
Do you see like where it's piped though, Donna?
I see it, and then it comes. Of course, you can't see what I'm pointing at.
Right, but it goes, if you look at it on this sheet,
Yeah.
whereas the driveway turns, there's a riprap apron and it goes into an existing stormwater basin.
Yeah.
It has some kind of overflow structure that goes to a water course where the flagged wetlands is. And then it goes down to that pipe under the road that you were talking about.
Well, it's a big water course stream before the road, though. I was just down there the other day. It's like tons of water coming down. It's a regular stream.
Well, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, down here. See, so if he moved his your screen over so we could see Morningside Drive, you can see there's it's a gorgeous property. It's like 2 hills and the water right there. So see the 2 elevations.
Mm-hmm.
The stream comes through that and around from the property, and that it comes down. It's like a little waterfall. It's
Right, so that's unchanged, but that appears to be something that was addressed in the subdivision, that some pipes were put in and a stormwater pond. So we need to revisit that to make sure.
Yeah, because it looks from here that it's going right into where it's actually a stream. So,
yeah, it goes around those 2 rock features.
yeah, it's beautiful.
You see the wetlands flags?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in this plan, is there any thought of daylighting any of the culverted stream? Or
Gareth, I don't think there is much culverted on there.
okay, I thought I heard Dan say that there had.
Yeah, I know the pipe, but I think that's way up somewhere. So I don't think that's.
Well,
I think
that's what the house is going to be connecting to. I assume it's not shown on the plans, but I assume that's what they're connecting to.
Yeah, we would have to see that.
Is it true that?
Do you see where that sweep is, like where
the 2 hills are? Right.
The radius on the septic system, it kind of looks like it's got a curve there and a 50-foot radius. That's the setback from an existing catch basin. It's kind of next to those parking spots at the edge of the driveway.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I see where it says existing catch basin, right?
Okay.
But I also see this down here where it's an outlet. So that's what I'm confused by. But anyway.
All right. Is it correct that no additional length of the stream or waterway will be culverted?
No, it doesn't appear that that's being changed at all. These were improvements that, at this point, my belief is part of the 07 subdivision.
Okay.
So Rango, did you have a chance to look at the comments from the staff?
Excuse me?
Did you have a chance to look at the comments from the staff?
No, sir.
Ah, okay. I'm sorry. Gareth, you had a question?
No. Not now.
But the previous comments you mentioned is about because I think was something about how the elevation, and we can add it, a drawing with the samples of the colors and things like that, or what is the other comment you're talking about? Because I am a little bit lost.
Well,
I think
you know what? Go ahead.
There were comments that were sent today by the engineer.
Oh, to the engineer. Okay, I don't get it, that one.
And we just got the septic plan. There was really nothing on any of the grading or drainage proposed for the project. So we just received that yesterday.
Okay, we don't get it, that one.
All right. Does the board members have any other comments or questions at this time?
My question would be, do we have to first see if he needs to get a variance, correct? Before we can really make any decisions?
I don't think they're. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say that's correct. We'll do some research tomorrow and get an answer to you. I believe, this is part of an original subdivision. So the assumption was that the lot areas were already dealt with, but we'll follow up with the building inspector tomorrow on that.
Okay, and Dan's comments have to be addressed as well by the applicant.
And I
Yes,
think what the board's going to have to look at too is, whether they feel that the house is in a different location, and as to whether that'll trigger a site plan review. So you're going to have to look at the old documents, I guess, to get that picture.
Okay, so it looks like we have some homework to be done on both ends. Any other comments from the staff for now?
No.
No.
What's causing that train noise in the back?
It's a vacuum.
Oh. Okay. Applicant, do you have anything more to add at this time?
No, I think it's we needed homework to do. Looks like.
Okay.
Could I just tell David, sent memos to Rui and Neil Nicolo.
Excuse
Could you
me,
repeat
I can't
that?
understand.
We sent memos to Rui's email.
She sent the memos to Rui's email.
Yes,
And to Neil.
yes.
Okay. All right. So what do we have to put this off on another date, or we just wait for a new submissions?
I would say we wait for the new submissions. We can carry it over to the May 20th meeting, and if the applicant has additional submissions by then, we can, the board can continue its discussion on this application.
Okay. Any other comments from the board at this time?
No.
Alan?
No.
Hey, Donna?
No.
Gareth?
No.
Jim?
No, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rango.
Can I have a question? Before
Sure, go ahead.
If I have to, revise things, according with the location of the house and the retaining wall, we can get in also for the 20th, for 21 is 21 or 20? 20th, okay, for that meeting, if we resolve these issues for the time?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rango. Have a good night.
Okay, you too, thank you.
Okay. Sandy, the next item is the Fiorito application for 39 Old Albany Post Road, a new duplex architectural review. Applicant here?
Yes, I am.
Great. You want a video?
Yes. Oh, hold on. Okay. Hello, Chairman Chin and members of the board. I'm Bruce Fiorito. I'm proposing to build a two-family house on 39 Old Albany Post Road in the town. And it basically was an old structure there that we took down basically in the same footprint of it. And I think we've met all the requirements. And I'm here for the approval.
Hey, have you had a chance to take a look at the comments from our staff?
Yes.
Did you want to address any of them at this time?
It seems the only thing I'm missing on the plan, but my architect did send me something, was lighting in the parking area, which he suggested is it's not a huge span, and he suggested an LED light off the house shining down. The direction it's signed, it's just a warehouse, commercial space next door. Doesn't affect anybody. I don't think. I don't believe. And you know, like a double LED that would light that whole area.
Okay. Any other comments from you, Mr. Fioretto?
Well, I think everyone has pictures. I tried to send pictures the best I could. I do have another illustration. The green that the architect came out with was a little brighter green than the one I'm going to use. I don't know if you're familiar with the house I just completed on Cedar Lane, 155 Cedar Lane. It's going to be that same color. It's a very earthy tone green, and we highlight it with a little brown. And if you look at the detail of it, some of the front is like straight double four and a half, and then it changes to some cedar shake green and then little cedar shake brown. We kind of highlighted, etched the corners out in white and things like that, dressed it up nicely. I can show you that picture of that siding if you like. I had Franzosa do it, who does quality stuff. It's a royal siding with a black architectural shingle.
Well, you sent around a PDF of it, so
Yes.
I guess we have a picture of that. Does the staff have any comments at this time, Valerie?
No, I believe the applicant took care of a number of, there was a couple different memos that went back and forth over the last couple weeks, specifically dealing with the parking and potentially needing a variance. The building inspector also weighed in on the potential need for an area variance for the lot depth. He's considering that a pre-existing non-conforming lot, and the applicant has addressed the site plan to adhere to section 229C of the zoning code. Other than that, the applicant provided all the necessary application details. Lighting was the one thing that was still noted as missing, but the applicant just explained the information to that. And if you could just maybe submit like some documentation on the lighting, that would be great to Sandy.
Okay, that's easy to do.
And do you have any more comments?
Well, we put out a memo, which I don't know if you have yet, Bruce. There's a couple of questions about some of the drainage, and we need to just show some proposed contours around the building and the parking area. I think that's pretty much the essence of it. So it shouldn't be a big deal for your architect to add that to the plan.
Okay. The obviously the lot's pretty flat. And I'll have them put some grades in there. It all pitches towards the front. We have a catch basin there, maybe give or take 15 feet behind the curb, goes to a huge dry well on the right side.
I wanted him to just put some elevations on that so we know where it goes. And also
Okay.
that the grading kind of agrees with the elevations he prepared.
Okay.
Oh, I did have one thing, and the fencing that's
Yes.
there. Are you planning to replace the fencing, keep the fencing?
Okay, I would love to replace the fencing, except it's on my neighbor's property, who I approached about it, who doesn't have any interest in replacing it. I would love to do it.
Okay.
I even told him I would split the cost with him, but anyway, I thought the planting detail around it is going to fill in and kind of block light, block sound, because that's commercial next door. And to block the light, block the sounds, and look presentable. And if you notice the planting detail, I did the arborvitae's along the parking area. And when it got to the backyard, it did Aphrodite's because they have a lot more screening and flowering all year, which would be in the backyard. I picked the red maples for the front because there's actually a couple of red maples there now. They like that sand there, very dry soil, doesn't adhere to any tree that likes water because it's dry. And red maples like that, and they don't grow too tall, and you see it. It's a shallow lot. If you plant a tall tree, in my opinion, all you see is a telephone pole. You see the leaves.
Right.
So I think that would enhance the front, and I think it's kind of the entrance to Crotonville where the houses start, and I think it would. I'm trying to make a nice preview for that.
Sounds good.
Any comments from the board or questions from the board
I have a
members?
couple
Jim?
questions.
Oh, Donna,
sorry,
go ahead.
sorry.
You
Jim,
were
do you want to
smiling,
go?
I saw this.
Jim, do you want to go first?
Yeah, you can go.
All right. So what kind of red maples are you talking about? Is it a Japanese red maple?
You know, I'm not that well versed at it.
Okay. Yeah, so we would need, I think that you should definitely provide the botanical Latin because the red maple, which is a large tree, likes water. So I'm not really sure. I also don't know what an
So
Aphrodite
Aphrodite
is.
it's kind of a, I don't know, it's a bush, grows 10, 15 feet high and flowers a good part of the year. And
Yes, I think that
a good border screening type of
yeah, so I've
plant.
never heard of that, and I'm pretty familiar with plants, so I'm not really sure what that is. So like that would be great to have like a botanical Latin because I do know of an Aphrodite that's an azalea, which is a really small plant, so it really wouldn't be a screening. And there's like another one that's a very ornamental plant. So I mean, you have a lot of commercial areas there, like things around there. So it really should be something that's going to screen well.
Yes.
So
Well, were they?
for me, I would really like to see like exactly what it is. Also, there's a couple other things. The lighting, like how you described flooding down on what I think it would be, in my opinion, it would be a lot more attractive to have low LED lights that are shining down, but they're low mounts, so they're kind of small by the driveway, so it's not flooding the whole area. Would that be something that you could consider?
Well, I thought if it got low, it would be more in people's eyes coming from above. You wouldn't see it's 2 stories, so kind of coming down, I think would be, or maybe between the first and second floor. You know, enough to give the light over top of cars, but not in anybody's eyes.
So the other comment I had is on the back where you have the 2 porch areas.
Yes.
That, you know, especially in the time that we're in now where everyone's like stuck in their house, it puts a new perspective on everything. If those 2 families were out having dinner at the same time, they'd be like looking at each other. It's a small little fence, and it doesn't really give, like a sense of individual space. So, and then there's no individual space between the 2 properties beyond that small little fence. So, I mean, I just don't think it looks right proportionally to your building and also to the usage of the place. So, maybe that's something that I don't know if the other members have any comments on that.
They're actually patios on the back. They're on the ground. That house.
Right, but with that lattice screening,
Maybe,
if someone's standing at that patio on the one side, they're looking right at the person on the other side. So there's like absolutely no definition between those 2 residential, units. So,
What do you think, like a white fence or, something, well, like one of those poly fences, whites that are solid that you can't see through, something like that? I mean, I got a nice barrier.
it's not really my forte. I
barriers.
just know that if it was me, I would want something a little bit more private.
Okay, well, that's what I had in mind. Like the new poly fences are, they're solid. A couple sections of that coming out that divides the 2. I would be much nicer.
Yeah. So, let me see what else I have. Also, it was about the windows. It didn't seem like you had a lot of windows on the one side. And then the other thing I would say is, I guess I'm not familiar with that property, so forgive me, but it does seem like there's a lot of commercial around there, and it doesn't seem like you have a lot of screening for that residential property, so they don't have to be exposed to the commercial. So, you know, like also for a visual thing for the people that are living there. So that was my comment, that it seems like you need more.
The only side that needs the screening is where that fence is on the left side. The half of the rear and the whole right side is actually a huge drop. You don't see anything. Everything's way down below.
Oh, okay. So that's why I said I'm not familiar with the property.
Yeah, it's only the left, really just that left fence that's the warehouses next to it. And then in the back, it's woods that drops down. And on the right side, it drops down.
Okay. So the arborvitaes that you're proposing, that's where
Yes.
that's where the screening is needed.
Yes, they're gonna. That's
I
gonna
personally find it really monotonous to see, like, it reminds me of like the Hamptons, like you go in and there's these giant hedges and you can't see through, and it's just it's like a wall. So my opinion as a board member is I'm not a fan of arborvitae for many reasons, but to have it monotonous like that, I think is it's not attractive. So and the maples, if you have 2 maples already, we don't know what kind of maples they are. There's an overabundance of maples in the town. The town just underwent they got a big grant and they underwent a huge tree inventory. And the take home from that tree inventory is that there's way too many maples in the town, and that it's leaving us susceptible to having problems because we have an overabundance of them. So I would rethink those.
Okay.
Jim, do you have any comments?
So procedurally, where do we go from here with Valerie's comments about variances?
That was a prior. That was the first memo.
Okay.
They since contacted the building department. The building department is seeing the lot width as a pre-existing non-conforming use, and they did agree that there would need to be variances for the parking lot, except the applicant has since revised the site plan and sent a new site plan adjusting the parking space.
So we're completely conforming now.
That's correct, and I believe the John Hamilton has taken a look at it to confirm, and we'll be sending out a memo shortly on that.
That's great.
Carolyn, any comments, questions? Okay. Gareth, any questions, comments?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, Garrett.
So, hey Bruce, how are you?
Okay, Gareth, how are you?
So, good, thanks. Nice to see you.
Same here.
So, as many of you know, I live in this neighborhood, so I'm very familiar with the property. Just a little word about the history of that site. The previous house, which Bruce took down to make way for this new house, was a very decrepit, but
Uh-oh. You're fading out, Gareth. Gareth, we can't hear you.
Very noble and beautiful. Just fading out. How about now? Any better?
There you go. You came back.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that. So the previous house that was there, I'm just going to repeat, was a decrepit, but originally very beautiful and noble design that was built by an Ossining, a celebrity, Henry Gordine, back in the day. As a beautiful house, it was appropriate that it was really the entrance to Crotonville, and it set a really nice tone for the neighborhood. Whatever goes in there, I think should as Bruce mentioned, it is the entrance that that it reflect that role. And you know, I wish it were. I wish, Bruce, that you were proposing a single-family house there. I understand that it's neighborhood commercial, and you had other choices. And I understand that this is an economic choice, and you know that I have to respect that. But I think I would like to make a request that you add a decorative feature along the front that I think would help establish it as a little bit more with a little bit more gravitas. And for those of you who know me, I like my stone walls, right? So I'd like to ask if you could build a small decorative stone wall along the property line with Croton, Old Albany Post Road. A small decorative wall that is, you know, natural stone, that has no masonry, you know, and that is built by, you know, stonemasons with aesthetics in mind, especially the aesthetics of, you know, an old stone wall. I think that would go a long way to helping this two-family house look less like a you know, 2-unit motel, which in some ways I think it does. So that's a request. Another would be that, well, let me ask you, were you planning on window storm shutters? They're not shown on your rendering, but if you can fit them, I think that would help the appearance as well. It looks a little stark the way it is.
Gareth, you want to shut off your video? See whether it improves your audio?
I'll try. How's that? Is that any better?
Good so far.
It's better? So
Yeah.
were you able to hear my request for the small stone wall?
The small stone, the issue here is that to put a wall across the front of that property is extremely wide and extremely expensive. And it really doesn't make nominal sense in that neighborhood.
I respectfully disagree.
Well, Garrett, I have spent
You're in the stone business.
$350,000 from damage that the town water did to my property below.
That's irrelevant.
Property because it damaged my property, and no one stepped up to the plate to fix it but myself. And then it was, we were in the town board for 8 months a couple of years ago because that property is surrounded by GB1 zone on 3 sides. So I got warehouses on 3 sides. And it was a little bit of a pet peeve because after I spent all this money on a lot that's probably worth about $50,000, as you know, the new houses down the street, the guy just sold one for $400,000. And so economically it has to work. So I'm way beyond that already. And it shouldn't have had a house there to begin with because it's in between 3 commercial properties. But that's when we went to the board, the neighborhood came in and they asked me to put up a house. And so we, like ladies and gentlemen, agreed that I'd put up a 2-family house. And that's how the zone got created. And there is a limit. And, you know, I think I created something that looks way, way better than what was there. And that old house was a disaster. It was twisted on the lot. And truthfully, the only thing really nice about that old house, it did have 2 nice chimneys that were made of stone. Mm-hmm. And other than that, it was twisted the wrong way. It was just patchwork. That whole house was patchwork. And because I would have rebuilt it if I thought it was worth doing. It was just in horrible shape.
It was in horrible shape. I grant you that. But I thought it was a very good looking house. And I find the house that you're putting forward not to be very attractive, honestly. And I think that I'm offering what I think, I mean, you say it's a $50,000, a stone wall along that line would be what, 30 feet long, 2 feet wide, 2 feet high. That's not a lot. You're in the stone business, Bruce. You could do that in 3 days.
Number one, I'm not in the stone business, but number two, that lot is way more than 30 feet. The frontage on that lot is tremendous. That lot is very wide. And a wall like that could cost you $30,000, $40,000. I mean, you do have to be realistic.
The lot width on the zoning table looks to be about, it's at 150 feet.
All right, maybe 50 feet. Well,
No, 150 feet.
oh, if it were, okay, so it's long.
Gareth?
I think you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so what I think you're proposing is not attractive, and I'm offering a way that is not highly expensive. I'm asking for no changes to the building itself, and I think you're very well poised to be able to do something like what I'm asking, and it's very much in keeping with the 2 houses that are being built down the street, which do have very extensive stone walls now, and help to define or help to continue to define the character of the neighborhood as a historic-like neighborhood. It is the old Albany Post Road. This is where, the Benjamin Franklin went up this road on his way to Albany, where he crossed the Croton River, right in Crotonville. It's a historic neighborhood. It's not designated as such, but I think we have an obligation aesthetically to try to carry that on. And this would be a simple way to give a nod. It's just a nod to that aesthetic, but it's something that I think would make a big difference.
May I ask, Gareth, instead of 150-foot stone wall, would there be a possibility of Bruce taking a look at maybe adding some sort of stone decorative? There you see those sometimes in front of home that are not necessarily the full entire front, width, but maybe some pillars or something decorative to give it a little bit more of curb appeal.
Well, stone pillars I've seen that are often done. They'll be done with like brick or block on the inside, and then faced with stone, and they look terrible, and they don't. They don't carry the aesthetic that I'm talking about at all. Architect's eye on that, a landscape architect's eye on that, could maybe help. Or maybe we could, maybe a shorter section of wall. I agree that 150 feet is a lot of wall, but what about, a 50-foot length that would establish the aesthetic without breaking the bank?
Well, my opinion, and I have an extreme experience in landscape, building estates, etc. There isn't a stone wall on the left side of that street going down. Some of the houses are right on the road. I think with nice landscape in the front, and again, take a ride to the house I just finished on Cedar Lane, which was an extremely challenging lot over the hill. I just finished it, number 155, and see what we did with that lot. And that was extreme, but that was also in a neighborhood that brought a lot more than $400,000, and it's not in between 3 commercial lots. And so I think with some nice landscape, I can do some stone, some boulders, and do some plantings around them or something like that. You want to give it a little But to spend $30,000, $40,000 on a wall is a little excessive.
I'm not asking you to spend $30,000 or $40,000 on a wall. I'm asking you to spend maybe $5,000 on a wall. I've built stone walls. I know what they can be done for.
And putting a 30-foot wall or 50-foot wall across 100 feet, it's going to be lost. It's going to be in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to tie into anything. It's not a lot that needs a wall. On the right side houses you're talking about, there was existing walls there, and there is existing walls that whole stretch down there. And I get it. You need it on those kind of lots, and that's continuity. There's no continuity. Things have to, they just don't pop up in the middle of nowhere. My job is excavation, grading of land. That's my expertise.
I know.
I work with the best landscape architects in the United States. And that wall in the middle of nowhere, really, it doesn't meet my eye. I'm sorry it meets yours, and I'm not, you can have your opinion, but that's.
Well, I don't think that this house, plopped in the middle there with a lawn that just goes out to the road, that definitely doesn't meet my eye. It looks like a hotel.
We're going to plant some trees there, and we do some landscape in front. It's not going to be just a lawn out to the road. Look, but I sent pictures to the board of all the neighboring houses. And I think that's much in kind and above what's there.
I don't think so. I'd like to ask you, Bruce, then to contact, this is my request, if you're not going to go with the stone wall.
Okay.
Is contact one of those internationally known landscape architects that you work with and ask him to do a drawing of something in the front there and let us take a look at it. And again, I go back to what you said yourself, which is that it's the entrance to Crotonville, and therefore really it has a special place in the neighborhood.
Yes, it does. And it'll be clean and neat and way nicer than what's there. But on the same token, it's location. And gotta be realistic. The town code is that you replace trees which are there with half the size, et cetera, as you know the code. And actually, the trees that were there isn't any because Con Ed took them all down because they were dead. And there's only a few maples left and a couple of maples left and a pine tree. But I still propose to put enough in there above and beyond what was asked. And I think at the end of the day, we'll do a nice job.
Did we lose Carolyn? Okay. Any other comments, Gareth?
Well, I'm not happy with the way it's being defined for the front appearance. My suggestion has been rejected outright, and I'm not happy about that. I was trying to work with you on a building that I don't think looks good in that site.
Jim, do you have any comments or questions?
Well, I'm kind of hoping that if Bruce addresses Donna's comments, that maybe it'll go some ways to appeasing Gareth on his issues.
I believe if we plan it, we can do different kinds of trees. I'm not locked to any, red maple was one that we picked that likes the soil, but certainly we don't want to put something up that 5 or 10 years down the road, the soil can't sustain it.
Right.
Maybe flowering dogwoods or, I'm not the ultimate expert at different kinds of trees.
Well, there's 150 feet of frontage, so a little bit of landscaping will go a long way.
I agree, and I believe it'll look nice by the time the sidewalks are in and the planting in front of the house. And
now, what about a planting along the stretch I was talking about for a wall? something between a sidewalk and the lawn. So you show trees, but what about flower beds along? If you have a long or a couple of islands of flower bed, that could go some way.
Donna, you're muted.
You don't, no lip reading? I think he's going to be selling this as a 2-family home. It'd probably be better if it was like maybe flowering shrubs rather than flowering flower beds, because that requires someone to upkeep it. And if someone doesn't, that'll be less attractive than nothing. So you need something that's low maintenance. But my question is if you said the utility companies took the other trees down, does that mean there's power lines right there?
There's power lines above.
Yeah, so you don't want to be planting any big trees near the power line. So
exactly, that's why the red maples didn't grow that high. So the ones I was looking at,
yeah, they're probably Japanese red maples, which would not be good. But Sandy can probably send you the town on the EAC website. On the town's website, they have an amazing plant list that they Mount Pleasant people put together, and they list. I believe they have a listing for things to plant underneath the power line, like so it'd be shorter, because that's certainly better than 50 years from now having stuff in the power lines.
Well, the power line is way out by the curb, like right over the curb, so the trees would be back, towards the house anyway. But again, for instance, the red maple, they grew like the ones I was looking at grew like 25, 30 foot high.
Yeah, that's got to be a Japanese red maple, because the native maple's gonna grow 60, 80 feet. So
like I said, because of the distance, it's 30 feet from the road. If you grew in, like before, there was a couple of big maples or whatever were there. I think there was an oak they took down that was all hollowed out. But
yeah, you could put something shorter in, which
right,
I think would
they
be
look
good.
like a stalk. When you look from the road, all you see is like a telephone pole. I mean, that's on a lot that's deep, that's 2 acres or 3 acres. But on a small lot, you need something that balances with the lot.
Right, so a smaller thing would be good, and I think it would look nice from the road. So now hearing Gareth's comments about the history of the site, I'm wondering, so the building doesn't, I'm unsure about the brick on those sides. Like, is that like a brick face, or what is that?
That's not. He tried to put a brown cedar shake siding on it, but it didn't look good. If you have the chance to go by that Cedar Lane, it's deceiving. You look at the house, you look at one thing, but when you look at the detail, like we started like the center of that house with brown cedar shake, and we got from the ground floor up to the top of the first level there, say the top of the garage. And it just didn't look right. So I had to take that down and put up green cedar shake. So there's double 4.5 on the right and left side. Then there's double green cedar shake in the center, but it's the same color. So it doesn't stand out at you, but it's a detail you see. It looks great, but it's not offensive. It like blends in. Then above it, we put brown up in the gable. And I like to play with it. I'm going to make it look great when I'm done.
So what is it? So what are you proposing now if it's not going to be this brick? These are the pictures that
It's not brick. That's not supposed. It kind of looks like brick, but it's.
Oh, so it's cedar. So that's what you're proposing, a cedar shake?
Well, it was vinyl cedar shake, but it didn't come out good on his rendering.
Oh, I see.
I think I'm going to stay with green, and then maybe a little brown up in the gables, or we're going to, like I said.
So could we see a picture? Could we see a picture of what it is that you're proposing?
Let me see if I can pick it up here.
Because also, if you wanted to make it look a little bit more historic, instead of just having that, I don't know what you call. I'm not an architect. This is going to be really obvious the way I'm going to describe this, but that. The little triangle area, the little peak that you have over the front doors, if you actually made that more look like a real porch with like little, with the actual posts coming down, maybe that would look a little bit more, I don't know, but if anybody would agree with me on that. But right now,
we could do a couple.
I do agree with those 2 doors the way they are now. It does look kind of motelish. So if it had more of like a real, even just a tiny little front
we could do
porch
a couple columns on the corner.
I think that might look better in keeping with the area. And then I just don't, it'd be great to see what the actual front of the house was going to look like.
Let me see if I can get the, wasn't the perfect color, but I can show you the siding too, though. Just give me a second here.
So I'm also unsure about that triangle on the roof. Like that doesn't, like visually, it just, I'm not sure why that's there. Like a colonial, wouldn't that just be like a straight roof across unless it was a dormer or something? It is strange looking.
Sorry, just give me a second here. You see, did that picture come up on your screen?
No.
No.
On mine. Did I have to get switched to the?
Did you hit share screen?
I was
Down at the bottom.
Down at the bottom.
my web connection died for a minute.
And you're still pretty slow.
Can
So-
everyone hear me?
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Hello?
Bruce,
I got kicked off and couldn't get back on, but
Bruce, you put your mouse down to the bottom of the screen and something will pop up that says share screen.
little green
Huh,
square.
I don't have it here. There's my
What image are you trying to share? Because I probably have it.
picture of the front of the house in all green.
Oh, I see it here. Okay.
Let me see. I see. I had to push
You
share.
mean
screen.
part of the application, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really hard to. I see it now. The one that's all green. It's
There we go.
I lost internet connection, so I didn't hear what Donna was suggesting for a more historic look.
well, not those cedar shakes on the side, and to have like a real porch on the front rather than that little thing, and then also not the little triangle on the top. So just have a straight roof going across. I think it would be just so out of proportion, that little triangle area for the.
Did that come up now?
Do you want me to here? I can share my screen.
Okay.
Did mine come up or no?
How's that? Is that the one you're looking for?
No, it's the one. It's another one he sent. That it's all green, so it doesn't have those browns on the side.
It's all green.
It's also very hard to make a decision based on that all green one too, because it doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
Oh, that's the next one. Hold on.
That green wasn't a good color.
That one.
No.
I can't find the right color though. He didn't get the right color. Oh, I had this.
I like the idea of a small porch.
It'll
Jim,
give
what
it
do you
more of
think
a
about
colonial
that?
look. Yeah.
That one.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
one I'm looking at.
Yeah, I agree with Donna that that kind of looks like a motel. If there's some way to put maybe a bit of a porch on there and make the doors seem more
I
separate.
think one of the issues was when he brought the roof out too far, then it went into the front setback. Then it came too wide, so he moved the roof back just so when you're going in the door, if it's raining, you're not getting wet, you know. And then he
Could the roof come out to where the little landing pad is, the little entry pad there?
I don't think so. I think, hold on, let me just look at my picture.
And also I would make, my suggestion would be to have it, so I don't know if this architecturally if you can do it, but not, just have it open, that roof. So you just have the peak and then on the posts, rather than having that vertical line.
Yeah, that front of the house is on the line, so we can't bring that roof out with posts. I think Valerie would probably know. I think then it's out of code. It's in the front setback.
Because that would really change the look.
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't know if if that might be an exception. I'd have to take a look at the
Okay.
front yard.
But I'd also like to see what the actual color is going to be, because this is not very attractive. This.
I have, if you're, like I said, if you're happy, you saw it on Cedar Lane, that's the actual.
I haven't actually been going out and to put a fine point on that. I have a Prius and the battery died because I haven't been driving it. So.
Well,
I got to deal
colors.
with that.
I can show you the colors that were sent today. Hold on.
I'll definitely plan to go see the 155 Cedar Lane house.
Okay,
but,
good.
But Bruce, did you say the materials were going to be exactly the same?
Yeah, the same. It's a royal crest, royal crown. It's a very good vinyl siding, and it's a. There it is. And
it's just the one color.
That was the color cypress.
Okay, and it's just the one color. Like everything's going to be the one color.
Well, like I said, then if you see that house, we accented some with the double 4.5, some with the cedar shake type, and some with brown. Like the gables with brown, we changed it up here and there.
So I would really like to see what it's actually going to look like, because I'm having a hard time. I mean, even if I guess it would be acceptable to see that, but I would rather see this, like a drawing of it, actually what it's going to look like.
Bruce, all green, it looks kind of monotonous. Could you do the same kind of thing on this one that you did on the Cedar Lane house?
That was our plan, to do like the gable and brown, just that I couldn't, I'm not a computer guy, my architect couldn't get the right colors and exactly, so I had to turn in something, so so we put that in, but that's the house right in town, and it came out really great looking.
Well, I'll definitely.
And I don't know, Garrett, I don't know if you or one of you mentioned about the shutters. The windows are too close to put the shutters, but I wonder if there's something decorative. I could ask Mark Franzosa, because he's good at that stuff, of maybe putting something between the first floor and the second floor on the siding, something like that. Maybe they make up a panel that goes sideways or something. I mean, he's my go-to guy, so.
That I don't think would be good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that you have to see it. Could make it better, could make it worse.
Yeah.
I think it'd be more interesting to have two different tones, like the front, the one, and then the two little L's, like a slightly lighter color or something, or a brighter color.
That's what we were going to do, those L's with the shakes instead of the siding. So it's not drastically different, but it breaks up the monotony of the double 4.5.
So there are some exceptions to the yard requirements. Cornices, cantilevered roofs may project not more than 3 feet into a yard. Window sills and other ornamental features may project not more than 6 inches into a required yard. So, Bruce, you might want to take a look at section 200-25D. There might be they allow for entries and porticos, a roofed over but an unenclosed projection in the nature of an entry or portico, not more than, not more than 8 feet wide, extending not more than 6 feet out from the front wall of the building.
Okay, that was the problem. I think it's 11 feet wide. We went through all these codes with the architect. I think it's 11 feet.
Those are 2 doors, right?
Those are the 2 doors.
Right.
And we were allowed 8, so.
Can he apply for a variance?
Yes, we can. Just takes a lot of time. But
Well, could you submit to us, well, I guess you would have to get the variance first, but I would like to see what it looked like with a porch and without that, that horizontal feature underneath that, the overhang. Just have that open and have like a porch. So it's the horizontal doesn't make any sense. Or don't highlight it. I don't know.
I don't know what horizontal.
Your overhang over the doors. It's
Right.
I mean, does anybody else have any comments about that? Like, I just find it's not.
Well, if it's going to be replaced, am I on mute? If it's going to be replaced with a porch, I think that would be a good idea.
Or just have it all white.
But if it's not going to be replaced by something, that I think the whole face of the house would just be, one big plane, which is not good.
Right.
Oh, I'm not saying to get rid of that. They need something for the rain, but I
Oh,
don't
I
like
see.
that. I don't like that. I just think it's really uninteresting looking.
Oh, the design of it. Oh, yeah, I grant you that. While my web is still working, I'd like to get back to the idea of stone something in the front. So if I can't get a little decorative stone wall, which I think would make a huge difference and be reasonable, what about the thing that Valerie, I think, mentioned, like some pillars on either side of the driveway, if they could be done in a historic, design, with real stone, with the stone, being laid out horizontally, not the way it's sometimes done where they're put up vertically so you get more face, and make it look like really good. Just a couple of nice little pillars, but done really carefully. It wouldn't cost much, and it would make a big difference.
Well, I just can't agree with you. Okay, I'll refer you to Cedar Lane again. Go past that house to the house to the left of it, which is 153. 155 was supposed to be a mirror image of that house. It's nothing like it. 153 also has two stone pillars at the end of the driveway. They're lost in the wind. It doesn't tie to anything. Land, grading, this is my expertise. It's supposed to tie in together. There's no flow there. A wall that goes nowhere, a pillar that goes nowhere. It's my expertise. I can't build something that I can't agree with because it's not, the money's one thing, but the other thing is it just don't agree with it. It just doesn't.
Yeah. I get what you mean also about it being just unconnected with anything else.
Now, how about?
I'm looking for a solution.
How about something like this? I'm just looking at the house picture here. How about we did a small roof all the way across the middle? Just like a shed style roof, just like a tilted roof coming down. Coming out a couple of feet. It would break the first floor to the second floor.
That might be interesting.
It may be interesting.
What is the exposure of the sun?
Yeah.
Is it going to block the light from the other windows for the residents?
I don't think so. Well, that house faces, the front's probably facing kind of east.
Should be
So,
okay.
it's the morning sunshine, and the afternoon it's on the back.
Yeah, should be okay.
But that might be an interesting touch to do that with some roof brackets coming down. For support, like those supports on that roof now, and it would still follow it would just be an overhang, not violating the code, I believe. I guess that's up for Valerie to check out. But if we came out the same distance all the way across,
It's certainly worth a look. It could definitely help.
then it could give it, maybe give it that little character that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And certainly if there was an issue on, a roof like that stepping into the setback, as you know, and Valerie's looking into it, as you say, but from my standpoint, that was something that would get my vote yes, if it was approved by the zoning board. But I just want it to look good.
Okay.
I don't care if it.
Well, so do I. I'm not looking
Yeah.
to,
So
I
it
think
looks
a
like
porch-
cornices.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
better. I think a porch would look
Yeah, that
more like, it would give it a bit of a quainter look to it. So I
It
don't
does
know how
have
to,
sort of a barn character to it.
yeah.
Say
I
that
can do
again,
that.
Chip?
I'll give my architect a call in the morning, see if he can draft up something to go across the front. Would that work, Valerie?
you can. It looks like the roofs cannot project more than 3 feet into a required yard.
Yes.
So
So if we went 3 feet all the way across,
Mhm. Right.
Valerie, you're saying it can go 3 feet over the line?
the required front yard. That's correct.
Right. So Bruce, could you have your architect work up like 2 or 3 versions and run them by us?
I certainly will.
Could one of those include having a straight line across the top roof?
You mean get rid of the V there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if he does that, maybe you don't want the V there anyway. Maybe that would, take away from that.
It's
I'm talking-
proportionally not very, it's just very small for the big size of the house. It's just proportionally out of balance, it looks.
Let me tell him to make a couple versions of it.
Yeah, if you can give him, like some keywords for guidance, like authentic, historic look to the extent that it's possible. You can tell him that it's, an important spot in the neighborhood, and so it should be really cute. Those kind of guidance lines might help.
Okay. I'm making some notes. See if you can give us a couple elevations of the front.
And also maybe like a more historic looking light fixture.
That's a good idea too.
Bruce, are the windows white?
The frame around the window,
The windows themselves?
are they white?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so it's not going to have that black muntin pattern, correct?
No, they're white.
Because I think that's hurting it too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there'll be double hungs. I'll mention that to make it.
Yeah. Have them take that out.
Get rid of the crossbars there.
You can keep the muntins, just it would help. It would help the elevation if the casings in the windows were the same color, and the muntins.
Yeah. Okay. I never picked that up, to be honest with you. You're right, though. Okay.
Bruce, let me ask you one other thing. So
Sure.
what hasn't been mentioned is the fact that there's a very substantial view out to the north on the right side of this house.
Right.
Terrific view out over the Croton River. Do the rooms on that side take advantage of that view? It would be great for you if they could.
They have good sized windows on the back.
There's good size windows, and
Okay.
you do have to limit windows on the second one, the bedroom, because you need walls to put furniture, closets. You have entry doors, closet doors,
Mhm.
and your furniture.
Okay.
So that you look
yeah,
at, believe it or not, look at most houses, like especially the modulars and stuff. They have no windows on the end because you need walls to put your furniture.
I know, I know. And that brings up a question.
Nice
Is this
big
going to be a
window.
stick build?
Pardon me?
Is this going to be a stick build?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
So which side of the house has the view?
Well, you'll see it from all. I mean, the house isn't. I mean, it looks big in this picture. It's not, that wide. You'll see it pretty much all the way.
No, I meant the view of the river. Like Gareth just said, there's a view. Which side of the house sees that?
Probably more kind of the northwest side.
One of the sides rather than the
The
back.
river is quite distant from there, like a mile. Because that's really was my point of the a single family house on this lot, because you're looking over a commercial. I mean, you're looking over me, Manny's, and roofing guy. It's that's what everyone wanted. That's what I agreed to. It's fine, but it's kind of more of a commercial lot than it is a residential lot.
Any other comments from the board?
Well, I would like to see what it's actually going to look like with the colors and everything. And also, I think part of this is what the landscaping in the front looks like. So I'd like to know what all those plants are going to be, like what it's going to look like.
And you'll use and Bruce, you'll use the Latin names for them, please.
The Latin names?
The scientific names, yeah, like the
scientific names. Okay.
Yeah.
On the elevations of the 2 or 3 versions you're going to present, can you include not just the front but both sides? Because I want to see how cars approaching from both sides will view it.
I think he provided all the elevations of 4 sides.
Right, I'm just asking that he do the same for the new versions he's going to produce.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry.
And the other thing that was my concern, which way back in the beginning of the discussion, was how the treatment of the back area. So between the two residents.
Right.
So I'd like to see that.
Okay. Yeah, we're staying at something fairly small there because you can't take up the whole backyard because it's not a very deep lot. So that's, that was all part of the planting details. That's something that kind of screams. There's going to be a fence on the right side too, because there's a huge drop off the back in the right side. So that's why we put a fence down the right side also. But we don't want to put plants in front of that, because that's, if you have any view, that's the side.
Regarding the fences, I don't have the drawing right in front of me. I know that the fences that exist already around that lot are chain link, and
on the site plan, there's a 3-foot high chain link fence that goes down that right side, because you wanted something you could see through, and something that didn't stand out horribly at you, but you had a protective thing, so a kid kicking a ball or something, nobody goes over the hill.
So I definitely agree that you need a fence on that side. It is something of a cliff. And I agree that there's value to having it transparent to, keep as much of that view as you can. But chain link doesn't look good. Is there some alternative you could use, like with, vertical bars along there? It doesn't have to be fancy.
I can ask Davey. He's the fence guy.
Okay, good.
I mean, it was going to be a black vinyl coated, just 3 feet high. It's not going to be like metal looking. Because black is one that you kind of disappears in the distance. That's the least visible fence is the black chain link.
Right. There's something
and still safe,
Right. As you get away from the Old Albany Post Road, that will probably disappear to the eye. I agree. As you're close to the road, it won't look great as a chain link fence. Is there any way that you could have like the first 20 feet or so a wooden fence? Because there's no view in the first 20 feet anyway.
I think actually the first, I don't know exactly, 20, 30 feet, there's actually, I think, a stone wall there.
Oh, okay. That would be good. If it's already there, yeah. I know that some part of the stone wall fell off when it collapsed 5 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, the one that cost me $200,000.
So,
the wall.
okay.
Don't bring back any bad memories, Gary.
So if it's such a steep drop,
Sorry, I didn't mention it.
And you may note, I didn't sue my neighbors or sue the town about it. It was the town water that came on it.
if it's such a steep drop, is a 3-foot fence, is that,
And
is
from
that
the
the
rest of
code?
from the rest of the cute little houses along that stretch, they blew the rest of my walls out there in Floyd. So that was another 150, 200,000. I've taken a lot of town issues. And if you look in your record, there's all letters, certified letters to the town, to John Chervokis, to all the board members way back then. It's all on record. So I'm not making it up. It's the truth. But, and I'm not looking to make an issue out of it. I just want to get my house built and move on.
So this would be a question for Dan. Hello.
Where'd Dan go? There's
It-
Dan.
He's there. So if it's such a steep drop on its, and it's a small little area, is 3-foot fence, that doesn't seem very safe with like young children. Is that the code?
I would have to check. It's the building code issue.
Yeah.
Because it isn't like, Bruce, is there a wall there, or are we talking about just a steep slope that breaks
It's a
off?
steep slope from that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure, the code's pretty clear about walls. I don't know what it says about steep slopes. So I could discuss that with John Hamilton.
I think as long as there's a fence, even 3 feet, that's all you need for safety. If you put in something taller, you're going to start blocking that view, which won't be good for either the people in the house or for the cars driving by.
Well,
But
but ultimately,
currently, get a sense of air.
ultimately, if there is a code issue, the
Oh, yeah.
aesthetics of it may be secondary.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the property. Sorry.
Okay, so we'll check with John Hamilton on that. If there's a certain height. I mean, I thought 3 feet was high enough, to do it. It doesn't matter to me. It could be 4 foot, 6 foot. But again, I was thinking of the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Granted.
So,
Yeah, I'd say put in the shortest one you can get away with for code.
all right, so I will be in touch with my architect, see if we can get a couple more elevations on the front. And for Donna, I'll try to see what we can do about more descriptive trees. And
bring out that front roof as much as you can.
and yeah, change the elevation, the front roof, and we'll look at with that thing on top, without the thing on top.
I mean, I agree with your original comment. If we could have columns and a substantial covered entry, that would help significantly. I mean, I don't want to jam you up and force you to go into zoning, but maximize it as much as you can.
Okay, I'll tell them put it out the full, as far as you can get it out there.
Okay, great. So what's the next step for this?
When we get back on for the May 20th meeting, I'll get it on, I'll get everybody info.
Do you want to set the public hearing now, or do you want to wait for the next round of submissions?
Why don't we wait for the next round?
Well, let's wait till the next, well, first people have to get notified anyway, but no, let's hash it out. I want it to be correct with everybody, so.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Have a
Okay.
good night.
Good night. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Fusso, 50 Old Albany Post Road, right next door, amended rear wall plan, ARB and engineering approval. Applicant? Hello?
I don't think he's here. Unless,
I think it's, well, either, there are two
me?
folks. There are two folks who, can you unmute them?
Yes, Matt's here for Shemmer. And maybe it's Maureen.
Maureen?
He's still muted.
Sandy said that Matthew's here for the Santucci and Shemmer, the 90-day request.
Right, can we unmute Matthew? Hi, Matthew?
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Good, sorry for the wait. Hope we can get this over with quickly. You want to just make your application?
So we're here for another extension on the Santucci Shemmer subdivision. The applicant has been working to resolve a number of issues that have been taking a little longer than they would have liked, but there are a number of the utilities that serve the site that needed to be tested, and they were in the process of doing that. They had investigations done. There are some corrections that have been identified. They'll be working to correct those deficiencies. There was also an easement for an existing sewer line that served the property that now that it will be serving more than one lot, it needs to have a proper easement to convey those utilities to their property from the neighboring site. So they've been working on that. They finally were able to secure that easement, and they should be filing it shortly.
And does staff have any concerns with this?
Not at all.
No.
Ann?
Yeah, we're good. Everything's proceeding along. Hopefully the sewer, the water's been tested, the sewer needs repairs, and that is proceeding. So we're on track to get these matters resolved.
Valerie?
No, I do not have anything.
Kathy?
No.
Okay. Board members, any questions, comments?
No.
We need a resolution for this?
Should do a motion to grant the 90-day extension.
Good. Someone
Is
move?
90 days enough?
You could grant two 90 days extensions, but are you just requesting a single 90-day extension?
Well, when we first requested this, it was actually a month ago. We're still working on those issues. If the board would be willing to grant us 2 90 days, that should hopefully be enough for us to resolve all the issues that Dan pointed out.
Let's do that.
Appreciate that.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Carolyn moved. Donna seconded. Okay, Jim, how do you vote?
Approve.
Are we missing somebody? No, okay, all right. Where's Garrett? Oh, there he is. Garrett, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so approve as well, so that's passed.
Did you ask Donna and Caroline?
Yeah.
Let's do the first two.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
They made the
moved.
motion.
They made the motion. Okay. Okay, that's all we need from Mrs. Steinberg. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Take
Thank you very
care.
much.
Right.
Okay, Maureen is on.
Unmute. Maureen?
Still muted.
Still muted.
Is she mute herself? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay.
I could ask to start video. See what happens.
Well, I mean, we has everybody read what they submitted on the wall, this new wall business?
I don't know if Maureen is here for that anyway. Or
I don't know if
just-
she's, yeah.
just
What will she
someone
be
who
here
was-
for then?
just maybe watch the meeting. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. There's no way of tagging her, right? Because,
I keep trying to unmute her, but and to ask her to start her video. But it's not working.
right, well, in the absence of that, why don't we currently just move it down the late table? Let's hold off on that for now. Let's finish off the other items on our agenda. I believe we have minutes to approve. Is that correct?
Did everybody get those?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
looked at them a long time ago.
Yes.
I don't
And
remember
half
having
of
any
them we just went
objections.
over again, but okay. Half of the material we just went over again today. So could I have a motion to move on the minutes?
I'll move.
Carolyn moves. Any second to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Jim seconded. No
Got
discussions? Okay. Very good. So Gareth, you approve the minutes?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so do I. Jim, you approve the minutes?
Yep.
Carolyn, you approve the minutes?
Yes.
And Donna, you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Actually, Donna, yeah, you were there. Okay, great. All right,
That
so
one I
the minutes
was.
from February 19th are approved.
Okay.
Okay, anything else we have to do?
Let's adjourn
Nope.
to-
Okay, so why don't we adjourn Mr. Fuzzle's request to the next meeting? Is that reasonable?
Yep.
Okay. Any other matters?
No.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Who said that?
Carolyn,
Oh, Carolyn, so moved. Okay, second?
Second.
Jim seconds. Donna, how do you vote?
What are we voting on here?
Adjourn.
Adjournment.
Yes, yes.
Gareth?
Yes.
Okay. I assume Jim and Carolyn approves as well, and so everybody, thank you for a relatively late night.